The following is a presentation of the Pro Wrestling Report. Informative, entertaining, and real since 1998.
Coming up next on the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Wednesday night, we're going to take a look at the TNA Open Fight Night concept, as well as Top 5 and Be the Booker for this Sunday's WWE Extreme Rules on pay-per-view. And your question will be answered in Ask the Booker. Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Wednesday night starts right now.
This is the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime TV, the longest-running pro wrestling news program in the world, with your hosts, David Hero and Damian Nelson.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Wednesday night. Damian Nelson sitting here alongside David Hero. And let's get right down to this week's top story, which is looking at a recently announced new concept in professional wrestling from TNA Impact Wrestling called Open Fight Night. A lot of discussion about this going on out there in the internet world. We're going to break it down from the way we see it right here, right now. First, here's the definition of what this Open Fight Night concept is, courtesy of TNA Wrestling. And I quote, "It's anyone on the roster can challenge anyone to fight, and they must fight. And this once a month, it's a special episode where one of the champions will be defending their titles. And this week, it will be the tag team champions that will be doing so tomorrow night on Impact Wrestling." Now, there was some confusion, as to what this Open Fight Night meant, with some people confusing it with the gut check, which is also something we'll see this Thursday night on Impact. This is active members of the roster getting an opportunity to step up and call out any champion that they so choose to do.
Absolutely.
It was thought that it was going to be outside people stepping up and challenging for a championship.
So you could have showed up in the Impact Zone and you could have challenged Gail Kim.
If I were an active member of the TNA roster, I could have, yes.
But the gut check is when you could come out and challenge.
Correct.
Okay.
And
gotcha.
we'll see that happen this Thursday night as well in a matchup where Robbie E is challenged and called out.
Don't.
That's not a spoiler. We didn't give the results of the match. There's a difference.
Be careful.
There's a difference.
I know how this works.
We are a spoiler-free zone. So, given that and clearing up the confusion, but given that this concept, once a month, it will be Open Fight Night. And any member of the roster, from Gail Kim all the way to, I guess, Hulk Hogan, can challenge any champion on the spot. A spontaneous championship matchup, in addition to finding out that the TV championship will be defended each and every week on Impact Wrestling. I think this is a step in the right direction for TNA.
I do too. It's going to be a little confusing in the beginning. There's no question, because why would anyone just challenge anybody and it be accepted? There has to be some ground rules or whatnot. I mean, you might get 13 guys that want to challenge Devon or Gail Kim or the tag champs in any one given night.
I believe you get one chance.
Right, but what I'm saying is, what if more than one challenges?
That's what I mean. And on that Open Fight Night, I believe only one challenge, because Hulk Hogan will actually accept the challenge for the champion.
Right, and it's a way of just making things a little more fresh, a little more different. But I think the gut check's going to be more entertaining.
Really?
Absolutely.
How so?
Because because it's a way of TNA introducing newer, younger stars. It's a way of bringing them in. It kind of is going to remind me a little bit. Remember when the 1, 2, 3 kid, or the Lightning Kid, or whatever X-Pac was?
Yeah, before the diapers.
Before the diapers, when he came into and beat Scott Hall, Razor Ramon a couple times. That way. Just a way of slowly introducing the underdog.
Okay.
Having people get, invested into them and whatnot.
Great example, but give me another one where that happened.
Oh, of course.
Point being, it doesn't happen very often.
Santino Marella.
The Milan Miracle.
The Milan Miracle.
Okay.
There's one.
All right.
I mean, it does happen where it just shocks you out of nowhere. And I think
but part of that shock is you didn't know this person was coming.
No, but with the gut check, what it does is it also, let's face it, it's going to cater to some of the internet darlings on the independent scene. Who knows? Maybe Adam Pearce, the current NWA, well, not the current, but former world champion in the NWA could show up. Colt Cabana could show up. Classic Colt, Boom Boom Cabana, whoever you want to call him. There's so many good talent on the indies.
I could show up.
Well, I said good talent.
I'm the best wrestling mind in the business.
The fact is that this is a way of bringing in people without all of the hoopla, without all of the added pressure.
And the expectations.
No expectations, exactly.
All right, so you got a Jesse Sorensen, you got the likes of Jesse Neal, you've got Zema Ion, people who will have qualified for great gut check debuts, who are out there who are currently in TNA. Here's the good thing about it is it does allow for that surprise factor, as you talked about, and does give new talents the opportunity to shine in TNA. But at the same time, what about those that have been there for a long time? What about those who already are there and may not have gotten those championship shots that arguably deserve them? Does this displace them, or does it give TNA an opportunity to make their championships more significant?
I think what they're trying to do is make it an even playing field all the way across. They're now going to try to make everybody matter on that show, and this is the best way to do it. Everyone now is going to get open challenge night. The ones that were looked over in the past, they now get the opportunity if their challenge is accepted.
Does it potentially dilute the value of the championship?
No, not at all.
We've heard in the old days of professional wrestling that a champion needs to be prepared. A champion needs to know who his opponent is. A champion is the one who makes the decision as to whether or not they're going to face an opponent. This flips all that around.
I think what's going to make the open night challenge or fight night challenge interesting is going to be the three judges.
Bischoff, Snow, and Hogan.
No. Earl Hebner. Al Snow, and Ric Flair. That has the potential.
For the gut check.
For the gut check, yes. That has
you notice the confusion happening here. Maybe they should have done this gut check thing first, then introduce open fight night.
And I think that has potential to be some tremendous train wrecks at times. When you have Ric Flair going off on his tangents, and Earl Hebner, who really doesn't say much except he screwed Brett.
Yeah, I did it.
You know what I mean? And then you can have Uncle Al, and you know how he can be sometimes.
Well over a year ago, maybe about a year ago, we heard about this, that TNA was considering an idea sort of like this.
It's no different than Tough Enough.
Exactly. Well, yes. But what they're delivering is trying to, I guess, hone in on what this reality TV craze is. You know, you've got the X Factors, the Voices, the American Idols out there and whatnot, with these judges and now this whole thing. Will it potentially get what those reality shows get, which is that viewer buy-in? And if it's not on a week-to-week basis, it's only once a month, can you sustain any buy-in that you will get from viewers? Meaning, we got this new talent, this person's cool, I like them, they were great in that matchup, the judges screwed them over, they don't get another chance. You know what I mean? It's one and done. As opposed to an American Idol or the other shows that this is modeled after, week after week after week, you're rooting for that same person, potentially.
But I think that it has potential where they invite them back the next week for another match down the road.
But it's open fight night. So anybody can, I'm sorry, it's gut check.
See,
anybody can.
You are screwing this whole
it's gut
thing
check.
up here.
Anybody can challenge for the gut check, right?
Yes.
I mean, Al Snow will introduce this week's challenger.
Yes.
Which maybe it all makes sense in coming from OVW. But I don't know if they're going to get the desired effect on this with 1 week shots. So even if they do it, if this is monthly, and I'm not sure if the gut check is weekly or monthly, but even if they do it on a monthly basis,
I think
you're losing
it's
it.
going to be weekly until they find that right guy. Or maybe bi-weekly.
Overall, end of day, is this a good or bad move for TNA? First, the gut check concept.
I think it's a good move, and here's why.
Oh, explaining your answer?
I'm gonna explain.
You don't hear that enough
because
in this business.
I don't want anybody to say, oh, they're in favor of it because they're friends with Al Snow. You know what I'm saying? I don't want that to be the premise of anything. TNA, if you've noticed, they have gone more towards Twitter and social media in the past, month and a half or so?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say? They are definitely going to take advantage of the power of that by having these unnamed, and that's what we're going to call them in the gut checks, because you don't know who they're going to be, and they're going to get on board, and they're going to be internet darlings, and they're going to be the ones that the internet fans like, or the smart fans, or the smart marks, whatever you want to call them. And that's how they're going to build themselves. That's how they're going to build these guys as a brand name. So I think it's a great way of using Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and MySpace and whatever else you want as a tool to help promote these guys coming to TNA.
And Open Fight Night.
You know, Open Fight Night is going to make, I think, the titles a little more important. It's going to give a sense of urgency because now it's like, okay, I wasn't expecting this. Unless, of course, you see the spoilers, which I'm sure at least half of our audience does because they're watching us online tonight, and they'll find that. But I think that Open Fight Night, for the time being, gives everybody a shot. This way, an example, Bobby Roode and James Storm are stuck in a program. Okay? Well, now let's say they want to throw in Austin Aries to challenge Bobby Roode or Bubba Ray. Well, now there's that little break in between the program to try something else just to throw, it just throws a monkey wrench into things to make things a little more relevant and important.
Good points. I think one point that need to be made is you got to give TNA credit for trying something new. Now, Hogan says this is revolutionary. It's going to change wrestling. Well, they've done that so many times, and it's time to start showing us as opposed to telling us. And arguably, TNA Impact has been a solid show for the last several weeks, if not months, on Thursday nights.
It's been getting better. The show is flowing. It's making sense. They're giving backstories for things that are going forward, which they have not done in the past.
But the unfortunate thing is nobody cares. Viewership isn't as strong as it can be. Buzz is absolutely not there. Just follow Twitter on a Thursday night when Impact's airing. It's unfortunate, and that's where it comes down to you, the fans. And maybe it's time for us to issue an Open Fight Night challenge.
I'm retired.
Can we do it? Tomorrow night, I want all of you who are watching this broadcast to tune into Impact. I want you to interact with us about your thoughts of Impact throughout the night. On Twitter, at PWR Show. On Facebook, facebook.com/PWR Show. The special hashtag that people could use tomorrow while they accept our Open Fight Night challenge to give Impact another try is, we'll tell you at the end of the episode.
Hashtag.
We got to consult with the Kaz. He's the marketing director.
Hashtag PWR TNA. That's simple enough.
That could get ugly.
Why?
Well, because a lot of times they're not so positive.
I don't care. You're going to read them all.
Fine. Hashtag PWR TNA. Tomorrow night, our challenge to you, give TNA yet one more chance. See how Open Fight Night goes.
And the most creative hashtag comments we'll talk about next week.
Right here on this very program. And tune in, watch it, interact with us. Let us know what you think. We do a live show Thursday nights right after Impact, Sudden Impact Radio, with the man they call Meathead. And I will say viewership and listenership has been up for that show over the last few weeks, which gives an indication that there are more of you involved in watching Impact. But share it with us. I want to hear a lot of buzz tomorrow night. I want to see a lot of buzz tomorrow night about Impact Wrestling. So, be that as it may, we're going to take a time out, and when we come back, it's this week's Top 5, and be the booker for this Sunday's Extreme Rules on pay-per-view. Ask the booker as well. This is the Pro Wrestling Report, primetime Wednesday night.
This is your Pope D'Angelo De Niro, and you're watching the Pro Wrestling Report with Damian Nelson and Hero on My 24 Milwaukee.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Wednesday night. Damian Nelson sitting here alongside David Hero. Thank you for joining us here at PWRshow.com for our Wednesday edition of the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time. By the way, next week, our in-depth segment is going to be, I've got the answer, David Hero. I figured it out. We're going to look at the one last thing WWE needs to fix, or the one last thing WWE could do to continue this forward momentum coming out of WrestleMania. That'll be our in-depth segment next week right here on Primetime Wednesday night. But right now it's time to go to this week's Top 5. And coming in at number 5, ladies and gentlemen, is no other than Edge. A solid return this past Monday night on Raw, giving some more meaning and reason to John Cena going into the matchup with Brock Lesnar this Sunday night at Extreme Rules. It was a pleasant surprise to see Edge back in the first hour of Monday Night Raw and a 3-hour edition of Monday Night Raw. And I think it was useful. I think it actually helped, and everything he said made a ton of sense. So Edge comes in at number 5, ladies and gentlemen. Coming in at number 4 is the new head administrator in the John Laurinaitis administration.
Is she the executive head administrator?
Yes.
Nice.
It's usually how it goes, right? You watch Mad Men?
No.
Eve, she's endorsed and continually getting support from WWE.
Endorsed, all right.
And now part of this high-profile story. You know, when John Laurinaitis added her as the head administrator, I thought back to the administration or the cabinet of one wrestling god, JBL. This is going to be good with John Laurinaitis. Now he's got Long, he's got Otunga, he's got Eve.
JBL, was OJ his head administrator?
I don't remember his official title.
I hope not.
Eve, number 4, ladies and gentlemen, coming in at number 3 because Funk was on a roll, but it was on a roll with somebody we didn't expect it to be, Vicky Guerrero. Watching her do the dinosaur or the Funkasaurus dance on Monday Night on Raw was hilarious. Good job, Vicky, with a little bit of comedy in your pudding, if you will, this past Monday night. Number 2, Chris Jericho. He was tremendous all night long. A matchup with Kofi Kingston Monday night. Excellently done. Kofi deserves credit for that as well. But Chris Jericho shined when he progressed the story of the intoxication, or lack thereof, of CM Punk. Very, very well done. And I would argue that Chris Jericho is the only antagonist who could have made that as entertaining, rather, as it was. Speaking of entertaining, coming in at number 1 is CM Punk. I was convinced, as well as many of you, that he was indeed drunk. Clearly he was not. And by the way, he said the alphabet backwards. I don't know of many people who can do that.
Linda Kay did it. Monday night.
She was clearly reading.
You think so? She's very talented.
She has a lot of hidden talents, I understand. We found out on this past Monday's Meltdown.
Well, they're not that hidden.
CM Punk, well done, tremendously done. I thought it was a solidly long but entertaining promo between him and Jericho this past Monday night. So that's this week's Top 5, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to take a time out when we come back. It's Be the Booker for this Sunday's WWE Extreme Rules from Chicago.
Hey everybody, I'm Sunny, the original diva of the WWE and 2011 WWE Hall of Famer, and you're watching Pro Wrestling Report on My24.
Welcome to PWR Be the Booker, the only way to preview pro wrestling pay-per-view events with the Booker man himself, David Hero.
Are you done putting graffiti on the board here?
Absolutely. I just wanted to make sure it looks nice and legible and readable and all that good kind of stuff.
Welcome to Be the Booker for this Sunday's WWE Extreme Rules. What happens in this segment is we take a look at the card as it has been announced, and that one takes you through his booking mind as to how he would see the matches go. So, firstly, let's talk about the Falls Count Anywhere matchup, which pits Kane against Randy Orton. Kane, a member of the Mighty Mouse Club, Randy Orton, a member of the winning Nelson family.
Kane, Randy Orton, and Kane, they had the big match at WrestleMania.
They did.
An
excellent matchup.
Kane shocked the world by beating the Viper. And now they're going to be in a Falls Count Anywhere match, which you'd think would favor Kane because he's more sadistic, more evil, more Delavit.
Doesn't care about his papa.
No, doesn't care about Uncle Paul whatsoever. But I don't know where this is going to go. I mean...
Well, anywhere.
Well, okay, but if Randy Orton wins, if he beats Kane, then of course he goes right into the program with the winner of Sheamus and Daniel Bryan Danielson.
But Alberto Del Rio
but ADR wants to get involved in there also, which, if you notice, ADR not on the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So maybe they're saving him for that next run. So maybe, I guess, if you have nothing else for Randy Orton to do, maybe you let Kane go over and beat Randy Orton so they can keep their program going forward. Because otherwise, when this feud ends, they have nothing for anybody else to do with those two guys.
And Kane hasn't won a match, has he, since he's been back?
Well, he won WrestleMania.
Did he? I thought Orton won. Yeah,
he chokeslammed him off the top rope. Remember?
Yeah.
You were there. Well, you had a lot of Jameson in you, too.
No, at that point I was handling some business. I was otherwise detained.
Not saying Randy... Listen, if I'm booking it, if you have nothing else for these two guys, let Kane beat Randy Orton in a match. That's really not going to matter because you can have all different kinds of things, all different kinds of hanky-pankiness stuff going on around, and Absolutely. I'm going Kane.
2 out of 3 falls, a match we don't get to see often, a match type we don't get to see often. It is Sheamus defending the WWE Championship in a rematch against the former champion, Daniel Bryan.
Another interesting match. Right now, Daniel Bryan Danielson is the most over referee in the entire company.
Yes.
He looks fantastic. He has a great fan base. He's selling lots of T-shirts.
Yes.
Here's the problem. They've invested a whole lot into Sheamus.
No.
Yes, they have. He won the Rumble. He's been rolling over people. He's been getting frustrated with Daniel Bryan. Listen, Daniel Bryan is still going to be Daniel Bryan Danielson even if he leaves Chicago without the gold. Sheamus needs it. If Sheamus does not win Sunday, he's going to drop 2 or 3, maybe 4 spots on the SmackDown roster.
I challenge you that may already happen regardless of whether he wins or loses. Going into Chicago's Allstate Arena, the fans, all 17,000 of them, will be behind one person, Daniel Bryan.
But let's not forget, it's in that same building back in June for they had Money in the Bank when they were all behind Sheamus.
Correct, but the tide has changed, my friend.
It has changed, but the World Championship belt is almost going to be like a flotation device for Sheamus's career, because as long as he has that, his head will continue to be above water. They've got to listen. Daniel Bryan cannot beat Sheamus. They need to get Daniel Bryan away from Sheamus, a guy who they are trying to build as the #1, maybe #2 babyface on the SmackDown brand, simply because Randy Orton's there. If they take Daniel Bryan and put him with somebody else, then Sheamus has a chance to grow. Right now, Sheamus has to leave Chicago as the world champion. Unless you do the Daniel Bryan Danielson, then if he does go into a program, imagine DBD versus ADR in the Battle of the Armbar submissions. That could happen, but I think Sheamus needs it more right now than Daniel Bryan does.
The Intercontinental Championship on the line as the Big Show defends his stolen championship against the endorsed superstar, Cody Rhodes.
And they haven't, as of this taping tonight, they have yet to announce what kind of gimmick match this is going to be, correct?
Correct.
What do you do with Cody? I mean, he needs to get his title back to get some steam. But at the same time, it's Extreme Rules, right? It's going to be some type of gimmick match. You know Cody is going to cheat to win and bring gold back to the Super Friends side of things. Has to go that way. Because right now, Big Show doesn't yet. They already kind of laid the groundwork for the leg injury to Big Show, right, from Monday Night Raw. Yeah, Cody Rhodes is going to leave Chicago, the Intercontinental Champion. It's not looking good for you so far, Nelson family.
I ain't worried. What I am worried about is the match that is missing from this card that senior intern Cal didn't put on here, which is for the United States Championship. The Miz versus Santino Marella.
That's not on the pay-per-view.
It's being broadcast.
It's not on the pay-per-view.
It's being broadcast as part of the pay-per-view event.
No, it's free. Pre-show.
But it's a pay-per-view event. The stipulation for points and scoring was not that it was a paid broadcast. It was that it was a pay-per-view.
Pay-per-view. It's not on the pay-per-view.
Let me ask you this.
Yes.
As I put on my Ben Matlock gray suit, is it or is it not true that the match will occur at Extreme Rules? Yes or no?
It will occur.
Yes or no?
No.
Will the match occur at Extreme Rules?
Extreme Rules starts
What's the name of the event in Chicago at the Allstate Arena on Sunday? On the ticket it says what? Extreme Rules. Thus meaning that match will occur at Extreme Rules. Thank you. Your answer is yes. Is the match or is the match not broadcast on a national scale this Sunday night on pay-per-view?
It's not being broadcast on the pay-per-view, and we get points.
But is it being broadcast on a national scale this Sunday night?
No.
Yes or no?
No.
No? YouTube's not a national scale?
No, it's a worldwide scale.
Okay, so is it being broadcast on a worldwide scale this Sunday night?
Yes.
From Chicago, an event titled Extreme Rules.
You know what? Why don't we let them decide?
The prosecution wins as the defense rests.
No, I'm going to the jury for the verdict. That's what I'm doing.
Those aren't your peers.
Oh, those are my peers.
What do you mean, go to the jury? It's a broadcast match as part of the event.
I'd rather be tried by 12 than carried by 6.
You back to me carrying that thing on my head?
Your cup? No, seriously. If the Super Friends out there, or the Legion of Doom, I guess would be your team. I guess we would call.
No, Nelson Family Mighty Mouse Club.
Why don't they tweet at the PWR draft?
Tweet what?
Hashtag yes, hashtag no. Simple. But it has to go to PWR
Yes,
draft.
what, no what?
Yes points, no points.
Fine, I'm down with that because they're a logical group of people out there, contrary to you,
But
who has no
but
logic.
listen, it has to go to @PWR draft. It can't go to @Damian Nelson or @David Hero or @PWR show. It's either hashtag yes points, hashtag no points, @PWR draft. Right?
Yes.
Yes.
That's fine.
Okay.
I can deal with that. A vote for yes is a vote for the winner.
So where are we now?
Chicago Street Fight. CM Punk versus Chris Jericho. One thing we know for sure is there'll be a Arena Stadium parking or a Horizon Stadium parking sign used in this matchup.
You think so?
Always has been in a Chicago Street Fight in Chicago.
Another interesting match. Chris Jericho, as far as I'm concerned, his return has been an absolute bust.
You're
With
wrong.
the exception of being in big matches, it's been uneventful for Chris Jericho fans.
That you're right on.
Okay, so
Bell to bell. You're right.
absolutely.
Outside of the ring, and all his talking and his performance has been
But all
extraordinary.
he's been doing has been talking. He hasn't.
That's what he's great at.
Right, but he hasn't done anything spectacular, anything that's making us talk. People want this feud to end. They don't even want it to go on anymore.
I disagree.
It's been uneventful. CM Punk, Chris Jericho, Chicago Street Fight. You know what? CM Punk got his big victory last year in front of the hometown. Chicago went nuts. TMZ showed pictures of CM Punk with the belt in the refrigerator. Right? You know, it's what they did.
Jericho becomes a new WWE champion.
Absolutely. When was the last time the hometown boy won 2 big matches in his hometown? I can't think of it. I can't see why. Listen, if I'm Chris Jericho, here's the payoff. Beating him in his hometown. But at the same time, then when you think about it,
Is that a retraction?
maybe. CM Punk could beat Chris Jericho in front of the father, the mother, and the sister. What a celebration that could be. So then does Punk get his revenge in his hometown with his family? Chicago Street Fight. You beat the babyface by cheating. Cheating's legal in that match.
You just flip-flopped.
No, I didn't.
Well, you flipped.
I considered, but I didn't. I still recircled Chris Jericho. Why? Wouldn't it be amazing if Colt Cabana
Classic?
is the reason CM Punk loses?
Yes.
Not that it's going to happen, but one of his good friends. I mean, a lot can happen in Chicago. Chris Jericho, if Chris Jericho loses, he now drops out of the top 10 on the Raw team.
Next matchup is the Extreme Rules matchup. Brock Lesnar versus John Cena. A match that I personally feel should not be happening this soon, but it is happening this Sunday night. It won't be a wrestling match. It'll be a bit of a fight. David Hero, who wins in this main event extravaganza?
This is going to be a fight, but I also believe it's going to be, like I've said before, it's the Rocky 3. It's Rocky versus Clubber
Thunderlips?
Lang 1. And Brock Lesnar is going to Clubber Lang John Cena all over Chicago. He's going to beat him up, batter him, try to end his career. He will leave Chicago the new face of the WWE and the Raw brand, and John Cena's going to take a little bit of a hiatus and a break from TV for a few weeks, if not a couple months.
That's Extreme Rules this Sunday night on pay-per-view. This has been Be the Booker, where David Hero has said that Kane will defeat Randy Orton, Sheamus would defeat Daniel Bryan if he were writing this, The Big Show would lose to Cody Rhodes, the Chicago Street Fight would be won by Chris Jericho, and Brock Lesnar would defeat John Cena the way
Now,
David Hero sees it.
Before anyone says, oh, look, he picked all of his guys, look at the 2 main events. I'm taking points off myself and giving Brock Lesnar a win and booking John Cena off TV for a couple months. So this has nothing to do with the draft and the points.
That's Be the Booker for WWE Extreme Rules. Coming up next, it's Ask the Booker, your question of the week.
Welcome to PWR Ask the Booker, answering your questions about the inner workings of pro wrestling each week. And now, let's find out which question was selected for this week's episode of Ask the Booker.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time this Sunday. Extreme Rules on pay-per-view. We're going to be there live. And we'll have the post-show immediately following the show, the pay-per-view, from Chicago, from the Allstate Arena, and some shenanigans planned for after Extreme Rules.
There's always shenanigans whenever you're involved in Chicago.
I think it's more Billy Gunn than me.
Well, and of course, the big party with Billy Gunn afterwards, and all that information is at pwrshow.com. Where to get all. Well, it should be. I mean, heck, why wouldn't it be? You're one of the co-hosts.
Speaking of Billy Gunn, coming up next week on the Primetime Saturday Night Edition, we've got...
not this Saturday, the following?
Not this Saturday, the following Saturday. We've got the first part of our 3-part interview with Billy Gunn, where he talks about a lot of things that you probably didn't know about. That exclusive interview starts next week on Primetime Saturday Night. Billy Gunn here on the Pro Wrestling Report. But now let's go to this week's Ask the Booker. And the way this works is you email us at atb@pwrshow.com, atb@pwrshow.com, and we select a question and answer it from the perspective of that one.
This one.
This week's question comes from John in Cardiff, Wales. John has the following question, and I quote, the WWE...
Whoa, it's Josh.
That's what I said.
You said John.
Oh, that's what you heard.
Okay.
John from Cardiff, Wales. The WWE seems to have trouble with establishing stars as future main eventers, or even just keeping them around longer than a year or two. They're also lacking the amazing tag team division like they had in the Attitude Era. Do you think that rather than straight away pushing people as singles competitors is not the way to go, and maybe trying to establish a tag team will not only strengthen the tag team division, but maybe serve as a better way of establishing them? That's Josh's question from Cardiff, Wales.
Well, the interesting thing is, if you have a Z in your name, they're not going to push you very hard.
Ziggler?
Zach, Ziggler, Swagger, it just doesn't happen. So then they put Ziggler and Swagger in a tag team, and they're doing almost jobs to Hornswoggle and Brodus Clay. Listen, the people complain that they brought The Rock back. They brought back Brock Lesnar. It's because that these other guys haven't developed as quickly as they should. This is why WWE has brought back Terry Taylor to work in developmental, and now they're apparently opening up a finishing school in Stamford, Connecticut.
Like how to walk with a cup on your head? That kind of finishing school?
Well, you're used to walking with a cup on your head. But the thing is that now when they're...
Really?
What?
Really? Really?
So...
Carry on.
So now...
I'm going to go call Al Sharp.
So now... Whoa, that's not the cup I was talking about. So... Now when they go from FCW, which is like the single A, double A minor league baseball team, to now the finishing school in Stamford, which is like the triple A team, that's where they're going to get finished up, polished up, and looking good for when they're brought up to the Raw or SmackDown brand. That's how they're going to get these guys over, by giving the appropriate time and effort into the ones that have the potential to become stars.
I've got the answer to all the problems. Next Wednesday on Primetime, when we go in depth, I've got the answer.
Okay, I can't wait to hear your answers.
I'm teasing.
You always do.
That's this week's Ask the Booker. Again, you can send yours, atb@pwrshow.com, atb@pwrshow.com. Don't forget to check us out this Saturday night, Primetime, where we preview WWE Extreme Rules. Not necessarily book it, but preview it as it probably will go. And we also bring you all the latest from World Wrestling Entertainment, TNA, and Ring of Honor. That's this Saturday night on Primetime on My24 in Milwaukee. So, for that one, this is Damian Nelson saying thank you so much for tuning in to the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Wednesday night.